is dangerous. I think a lot of Americans are looking at this and saying, wait a minute, politics were injected into the FBI? That's a very scary place for the American people to be.
Right. I mean, I would call it a betrayal of our trust. I mean, it's critical that we, the American people, have trust in our nation's top law enforcement, and he betrayed that trust.
There are no plans to fire Rod Rosenstein at this time. I can tell you, though, that the president is for transparency. You'll remember he was one of the ones asking for the memos, the Schiff memo to come out. He wanted the Nunez memo to come out. He said, look, we need to be as transparent as possible in all matters. This one's no different. It's egregious what James Comey did. And as you just said, what in essence happened here is the American people were betrayed by someone that they should have been able to trust to be unbiased, someone that they should have trusted to do the work that law enforcement officials do, which is take politics out of decision making. Instead, he put it front and center. And as you see, his book is all about himself. This book tour is all about himself, and the higher loyalty that the title references has nothing to do with the loyalty to the rule of law, has nothing to do with the loyalty to the American people. It has everything to do with a loyalty to himself, and that's what's so egregious in this matter.
Right, I heard somebody refer to it, his book title, and say that it should have been called A Higher Royalty, given what he's doing for his publicity tour. Hogan, before we run out of time, I do want to pivot to another topic. I want to ask you about Syria, the surgical strikes that the president waged with France and the United Kingdom against Bashar al-Assad for his chemical weapons attack against his people. First of all, there's been some confusion about whether the president plans to implement harsher sanctions against the Russians for their part in providing chemical weapons equipment to the Syrians here. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, had said yes. Then the president's press secretary, Sarah Sanders, sort of backed off about that. Clarify that for us. What does the president plan to do in regards to Russian sanctions?
Absolutely. Look, the policy hasn't changed. The president is looking at potentially putting out some more sanctions on Russia. We don't have any announcements to make at this time, and that's where the White House position is. Look, I like Nikki Haley. She was my governor in the state of South Carolina. She has done an incredible job at the UN, but right now the White House position is firm that we don't have any decisions to make at this time, or excuse me, announcements to make at this time, but we are looking at potentially more sanctions on Russia.
All right, and then when we're looking at Syria here, I mean, I think we can all agree that it's a nasty situation that's happening in Syria. It's sort of a lose-lose, I've been saying on the show, where if you have Bashar al-Assad, brutal dictator, if you topple him, then you have these rebel jihadist groups that would take over. So does the president, or does the president not support regime change there?
Now, look, the president's been very clear what he wants in the region. From the get-go, he's been talking about protecting our interests across the globe. This is one of those instances. We all saw the videos. We all saw the pictures of the chemical attack.